Well, Razorback fans, you got another player that's coming back to Arkansas, and it is Makhi Mitchell. Is this real? I think it is. So let's talk about it on today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Out of Bounds. You can catch every weekday afternoon from 1 to 4 on 103.7 The Buzz and 103.7thebuzz.com. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Wednesday. Getting the podcast out a little bit later today because there were some things I needed to wait on and to get done before I'm actually going up to Fayetteville for a part of this weekend for the Razorback Baseball games against South Carolina. So hopefully I see you there. But it kind of worked out nicely because we're going to talk some basketball once again. I mean, this is what people want to hear about, and this is what people want to dive into, and had some news, significant news at least, with yesterday's announcement that Razorback forward Makhi Mitchell announces that he will be returning to Arkansas officially. In fact, I'm putting the image up now on, if you're watching on YouTube, just the exact statement that he made on his Instagram. It's a simple picture of him just pointing to the camera with a nice little graphic, says, "I'm back," in the graphic. And then his caption says, "Hog Nation, let's run it back," with a few emojis and then also hashtag WPS. So based on that, it looks like Makhi Mitchell. We've been waiting on him and trying to figure out exactly what his move was going to be and if he's going to be on the team or looking to hit the portal like his twin brother did. But it looks like he is staying in Arkansas. So for the first time, the Mitchell twins will not be playing together. How about that? And so it's kind of interesting always the timing, because I think that's what I really look at the most is timing. Timing when these announcements come around, and if there's any indication as to what it means for other players that may be looking to come in or players looking to leave, whatever it may be, because we know the scholarship allotment is quite the fascinating thing, which, by the way, people ask me about this, and just to kind of clarify, as of right now, Arkansas is full on scholarships. All right. All scholarships are taken up if Devo and Walsh come back. But if one of them goes, open scholarship. If two of them go, two open scholarships. So keep that in mind. Just because the scholarships are full right now, you got to remember that Mitchell and Devo and Walsh could end up leaving. And whenever they do, or if they do, it opens those particular scholarships up. So because I know people are still waiting on the whole Ron Holland situation to happen. But either way, he announced that he would be returning, and it's something to where a lot of reactions came from Razorback fans. It seemed like most people were pretty excited about, which I'm happy for that. I'm happy for that because Mitchell was actually just one of 4 Razorbacks this past year to play in every single game. He played in all 36 games. He started 31 times, so majority of the season, averaged 7 points and 6 rebounds a game, and also led the team with 49 blocks. So yeah, I was kind of waiting on it. I think we all were. But now that it's official, and here's the thing, too, because people are going to say, oh, well, it's the same thing that Pinion said or that whoever said, or not Pinion, Darian Ford, as well as Barry Dunning. They said they were coming back, but then it didn't happen. Well, like we talked about, though, when it comes to these players that are actually staying, the telltale sign is if the Razorback Instagram account puts out any sort of graphic, because they only did that for Trevin Brazile and Jalen Graham. Those were the only ones that they did it for. Well, this time around, they did it for Makhi Mitchell as well, where they just say he's back and post presence now returning to Bud Walton Arena. That's what they say. So they did it officially for him. So that's kind of the telltale sign that this isn't something he's saying he's wanting to come back, but still could be up in the air and him going. It's official. So now you get him back onto the court, and we'll start with what it means to actually have him back, and then we'll go into the impact it'll have on the rest of the roster. I actually like Makhi Mitchell. I thought that he, at many times this year, was so impactful for the team. It wasn't like he was the best player on the team. It wasn't like that he was just trashing it in a bunch of games. Like there was nothing like that. In fact, in postseason play, the dude was as solid as they came. And I thought the efficiency that he played with was extremely awesome, too. There was a reason why he started most of the games. There's a reason why he had a lot of great performances, but it was always felt like, and then again, not every game, but for the majority of the season and in each game that he did play in, did start in, if you look at the box score, you'd see Ricky Council with 20 points, or you see, Devo with 16, and, maybe throw in, somebody else that had a really nice game. Maybe AB had a really nice game, whoever. But you'd look down at Makhi Mitchell's stat line, and I felt like the majority of his box scores always said 10 points on 4 of 5 from the field, to 2 out of 2 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 2 block shots, and throw in like maybe an assist. And I looked at that and I'm like, that's efficiency. Like, that's not like he's going out there and taking way too many shots. In fact, there were times I felt like he was not aggressive enough, because it seems like he does have a really good, like IQ, basketball IQ on him, to where he knows what plays to make in certain situations. I got that vibe from him a lot this year. And so having him back on the team this upcoming season is extremely fascinating, because we know that you're already returning some other post guys too. In fact, you're now returning 3 of your post players, or at least your guys are going to be down low, with Brazil, with Graham, and now Makhi Mitchell. And we know that with Pinion coming back too, it seems like he's going to be the guy that comes back for sure. About 4 players now that will be from this past year's team and will be on this year's team. We'll see what Devo and Walsh end up doing. But on top of the transfers and, the recruits and everything too, it seems like it's a great situation. Bay Fall's going to be there into the mix. And Ron Holland, whenever he ends up signing, and hopefully it happens sooner rather than later, whenever he ends up signing on the dotted line for Arkansas, which I think is the assumption from many, then he will also be into the mix there, maybe be more of the combo forward type of player. So it's important. It's important to have a guy like Makhi with his game experience from last season, to know the system, to know what the expectation is, to be a seasoned veteran, and also to be a guy that had some really nice plays and some really nice games this past season. I love the move that Muss made. It just makes you wonder, was it something where they told him, hey, you're just going to have to wait? Was it something to where he was wanting to come back and was really hoping that he didn't get asked to leave, and the coaching staff was like, well, let's wait on that. Let's see how it goes, and we'll let you know. Was it something like that? Was it something that he was maybe looking to transfer and maybe looking to, and the coaching staff stepped in and said, hey, wait a minute. We'd like to have you back. Let's try to work this out. Could have been something like that. Absolutely. But, you think about Brazil and Graham's announcement, it was pretty quick. Like, it was pretty soon after the season ended. And I mean, how long has it been since the regular season ended, for crying out loud? It's been over a month. So you're talking about Makhi Mitchell just being in limbo a little bit for over a month. No one really knowing what he was going to do, what direction he was going to do. But now he makes the announcement official. So the question becomes, is what does this do for the roster? Or maybe what does this mean? Now, if you want to take it to a negative side, like a negative side of what it would mean Makhi Mitchell coming back. When I say negative, not negative against him, but maybe negative against what people were kind of hoping for. What I would take from it is there's the possibility of maybe because Makhi is staying means that maybe some of the other guys that they were on as post players, weren't the guys. Like maybe Grant Nelson, a guy that everybody was all in on, and I was one of them that would have loved to have had him. Maybe that was something to where Arkansas and Eric Musselman were like, hey, we're going to go after this guy. If we can't get him, or if we don't feel good about it, let's go and just stick with Makhi. That may have happened. Now, again, it's not a bad thing against Makhi, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing against the coaching staff. It's more like, okay, listen, we feel really good about Makhi, but this guy would take us to another level. Let's go after him. If it doesn't work out, we'll stick with Makhi. I feel like that could have been a scenario. Or, as we were talking about before, Makhi Mitchell was thinking about leaving, and especially now that when his brother went into the transfer portal a few weeks ago, and the coaching staff just needed to re-recruit him a little bit, saying, hey, well, this is what we need you for. This is where we can re-recruit you back into the mix. We need a post guy. We need an experienced guy. And maybe it took some convincing. And then finally he's like, okay, I'm ready to go. I feel good about it. Let's do it. So, okay, if that's the case, great. That's exactly what you would hope to see out of a player like Makhi and out of the coaching staff with Eric Musselman and everybody trying to get him back. But you're going to have plenty of depth down low. Because before he was in like last year, it was like, okay, you had all these new players in, didn't really know what to expect out of a lot of them, didn't know the roles that they would play. But now this year, you got 3 of them back, which you know how good they were last year. And we can all assume that they'll be even better this year. Because if you look at the post players, there hasn't been many of them. That's what's crazy about it. There hasn't been a whole lot of them at Arkansas that's developed over year after year. But the prime example I look to is Jalen Williams. He's one of the few that was actually here for more than a year. But when he was here for the seasons that he was, and 2 years, he was great when he came in, and he got even better the next year. So there's a very great chance that you'll see the 3 guys returning with Makhi, Jalen Graham, and also Makhi Mitchell in Brazil. Like those guys, like you'll see them all start to get better into the year. And that's still bringing in Bay Fall, a McDonald's All-American. And that's a salty group down there. Like if you're telling me that you got 3 bona fide experienced guys, 3 dudes that have really good offensive games and have shown it at times. You got a guy like Makhi who's been really good defensively and good down low at times. And then you throw in a really raw and incredibly gifted Bay Fall. And then not to add, and then once, the Ron Holland situation, we'll see how that turns out. But again, he won't be more of a down low player. It'll be more of like the Jordan Walsh role if Jordan Walsh ends up leaving. But that is a incredible foundation to have down low. And then when you talk bringing all the other guards and the forwards that they have out of the portal, it's gonna get wild. It's gonna get crazy. It's gonna get nasty. It's gonna get fun. So I'm glad Makhi's coming back. I really am. I liked Makhi. I felt like he was a guy that didn't, ever like. There wasn't a time where I look back and I'm like, man, get this guy out of the game. Like there really wasn't that. Now he had bad games, but he was never really looked at as like, oh man, this guy's a detriment. This guy, you need to get someone better than him or whatever. It was never that way. So I'm glad he's coming back. It seems like most Razorback fans are glad he's coming back. And so I guess we'll see how it all plays out for him and what they're going to try to do going forward. But either way, it's going to be wild. And speaking of, we got an idea of who's all going to be going to the NBA Combine. And Arkansas has plenty of representation in. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But folks, I got to tell you about Built Bar. As we know, it is busy time of year for all of us. It's springtime. We know that there's been graduations coming out as the end of school happens. We know that vacations are getting planned. Memorial Day weekend's coming up. And it's really tough to be able to find the good food or the good nutrients and the good snacks that we need to keep us going. Built Bar is made just for that. If you head over to Built.com or check out Built Bar at your local Sam's Club or at Walmart, you won't be disappointed with their incredible flavors to choose from. They have over 17 grams of protein and only 130 calories, and it's covered in 100% dark chocolate. You say it's almost too good to be true. It's not. It's good for you. It's healthy. It tastes amazing. So stop what you're doing. Go and get you some. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. There's a reason why they've been doing business here on the Locked On Podcast Network for as many years as they have, is because it works. They don't flood in a bunch of money into advertising if they don't have a product that's worth advertising. And it is. It's incredible. So go and check it out. Built.com. Also go to your local Sam's Club and Walmart. Check out the greatest of Built Bars.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. So you had the announcement of the NBA Combine and the official invite list of players that were going to be heading over to try their hand at the NBA, or at least go through scouting and all that. And, it's a pretty significant list. It's a good list, and I think it always means something. But Arkansas has 4 attendees, 4 of them, where Anthony Black, Ricky Council, Nick Smith, and Jordan Walsh are all invited to the NBA Combine. Devo Davis did not get the invite, but the 4 guys that did are all guys that are either going to be drafted or borderline could be drafted. I think we all know Anthony Black is going to be a top 10 pick. Like, I would be shook if he didn't go top 10. And most people that have done their mock drafts and whatnot have him as the number 6 pick, 5 pick, 8 pick, 9 pick, like all into that range. And so it's certainly a foregone conclusion that Anthony Black will be drafted into the first round top 10. Nick Smith's the other one where it's kind of a wild card just because of him not playing and whatnot. He's still going to get drafted. There's no question about that. And I still believe he'll be drafted in the first round. It's just a matter of where? Does he really show out at the combine? Does he really impress some people? And if so, do they, bring him in and say, all right, well, we're going to use a top 10 pick on you, or is it going to be more like in the 20 range? Don't really know, but just from all the mock drafts I've been seeing, he looks like a player that's absolutely going to get drafted into the first round. But no matter what, will get drafted as well. Ricky Council, on the other hand, he really elevated his draft stock and even is in the position where he will get drafted too. I think he's been grading out at a second round pick, which is fine. It's just great. And, it goes to show you that, when he was at Wichita State last year, he wouldn't have even been in the mix. But because he came to Arkansas and because people got to see his game and got to see it showcased, he's put himself in a really great position to be drafted into the NBA. So I believe he'll get drafted. I don't know, again, if it'd be incredible if he got first round, but probably more so in the second round, maybe even late second round. But again, I think people feel really good about him getting drafted. And then Jordan Walsh. Here's the thing. I don't know if Jordan Walsh gets drafted. I haven't really seen many NBA mock drafts having him in the two rounds. I don't know if something at the combine can really change all of that, where if it's his game or if his interviews or whatnot, maybe somebody looks at it and says, okay, there's a lot of upside here. Let's see what he can do. Maybe they go that route. But if I was a betting man, which I am, I would say that you get 3 Razorbacks drafted this year. And if you get 4, that's amazing. I think that'll probably be tied for the record for Arkansas players getting drafted. Or maybe they had 5 one year, but still, it'd be close to it. And also what's crazy about it is as far as those 4 players going to the NBA Combine, it's tied for the most players invited to the Combine of any school in the country. So that's also a really big thing that Muss and recruiting and all of that can really use and showcase, hey, we get guys not only better, but we get them invites to the Combine. We showcase their abilities and show that they're great pros and can really make a difference there too. So, but that's it. So the question becomes really about Walsh and Devo, the ones that still are retaining their eligibility. I still believe Devo's gone. And again, that's not based on any evidence. That's not like any sources that I have. I'm just going off my gut feeling. I think it's more likely that Devo leaves and that Walsh stays. If I was choosing between the two, there's 0% chance that both of them come back. I just don't see that happening. And if it does happen, I'll be pumped. But I just don't see that happening. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool, though. I think it's awesome that they did it that way and handled it that way and everything. And so I'm looking forward to the fact that you get so many players now into the combine to get the chance at it. Because again, it's about recruiting, and it just shows you that people really appreciate what Muss has done and everything. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Which, by the way, just now, and I'm kind of interrupting here, but just now looks like, we're talking about Makhi Mitchell and having his Instagram post on Razorback Basketball. It's been deleted. Hopefully there's just like a misprint or something like that. Jeez, don't I just finished the segment. Don't tell me that there's something else going on. There's something wrong. Jeez. Anyways, but yeah, congrats to all those guys, and hopefully they have a great time and a great NBA draft combine, because that'll be huge for them as well. We'll get to the final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast coming up next, so stay with us.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, so final segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. It'll be a quick one, but I thought it was an interesting question that was posed to me on the on YouTube yesterday, I believe. Yeah. So, in fact, it was the reason it wasn't just asked just once, but it had been asked a few times, and I thought about bringing it in and talking about it, because we know with SEC baseball, you got 2 weeks left, and then the SEC tournament starts up in Hoover, which I get to go, so that'll be fun, hopefully. But either way, like you see that, and then you see like softball, Razorback softball, they're having the SEC tournament in Fayetteville this weekend. And I think that is really cool. Like, I wish that more conferences, or at least more sports in the conference, would do that. And I think there's quite a few that still kind of do. But I think that's just a really cool little element to it all, where they just rotate it in and out. And basketball, men's basketball, like, because let's look at the sports, because obviously we're talking like football's never going to move out of Atlanta, nor should it, honestly. Like, it's the biggest sport, the biggest moneymaker, and it's going to have the most fans. And you want to be in a dome that's environmentally controlled so you don't have to worry about weather or anything like that. I think it's a great thing. So I'm like, okay, that's cool. So that's fine. Men's basketball, having it in Nashville every year, or most of the years. I know it's been in Tampa once and other places, but I'm fine with it even being in Nashville all the time. Centrally located, although I wouldn't mind it if it moved around a little bit. And who knows, maybe it does once Oklahoma and Texas move in. But Nashville still, it's an easy place to get to for most people. It's easy to fly into. Like, there's a lot of things about it. But baseball being in Hoover needs to stop. Like, that needs to get out of there. I have said this many times, and I know we'll probably talk more about it as the SEC tournament gets closer. But yeah, I look at this and I'm like, okay, this is annoying. Like, I hate the fact that it's in Hoover every single year when there's so many other great ballparks in the SEC footprint that you could be playing it at. I was thinking about Memphis. Like, Memphis would be so much fun. Like, they're at the Redbirds where they play. I thought about that. I thought about where, some other minor league teams play. If there's in Nashville or if it's in, Charlotte, or I don't know, like if you played it in like something cool like Tampa. Because like I saw the Big 12 conference tournaments in Globe Life went in Arlington. Like, come on. Like, that's awesome. Who wants to go play in a Hoover? Like, it's, and like the teams that are there in the middle with like Alabama, those Alabama and Auburn teams are never any really good. So it's like they don't come along, and it's not like they have a lot of support there too. And I think it also needs to move to single elimination. I don't think it needs to be double elimination. They just make it easy, quick, and out of there. Like, coaches don't want to be in there because it just uses arms. It fatigues guys. You do injuries, whatever it is. So I want the tournament moved out of there, and I want it single elimination. Probably won't get my wish, but that's what I'm going to hope for at least. So we'll see. Either way, I just wanted to rant about that for a little bit. So appreciate everybody listening in to Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or on Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at BuzzJohnNabors for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you then.